13.8 billion years ago, the universe exploded into life. And with that explosion came the sound of creation. This is the story of a CUNY graduate who became a Guggenheim Fellow, who has not only tapped into that cosmic sound, but into the tones and silences in the air around us that, on close listen, create a music unique to the world of sound.
Sound and space are dependent on each other. They both suggest and are dependent on time. Even the voids of outer space carry the 13.8 billion-year-old imprint of the Big Bang. But then the voids of space, on which sound is born, are not voids. They are the negative space, the negative stuff, the negative sound, no less than the air we breathe, the counter to and on which the object sounds of the world sound and resound.
For Jeff Talman, chasing the primal sounds in the spaces around us has become his artistic calling. Cathedrals, forests, fields, the cosmos. He has touched on them all. But before becoming what is called a resonant composer, Talman pursued the more traditional path of the musician, conductor, and classical music composer. Raised in a small town outside of Pittsburgh, Talman took piano lessons and taught himself guitar as a young boy, joined a rock band, and programmed computers and played synthesizers before moving to New York to enroll in music at City College. Thinking he would pursue classical music, he paid out of pocket for lessons with Jan Merowitz, a German composer and CUNY professor who was forced to leave Germany in the 1930s.
He taught me how to be a composer in those 2 years, the foundations, a really disciplined Germanic foundation.
Talman learned classical music principles and conducted some programs at CUNY. He then enrolled at Columbia University for more music training and conducting. But after graduating and trying to start a classical music career while working as an engineer in music studios, he found himself stuck.
I sort of hit a log jam in '95, and I thought, I really need to change this, but I don't know how.
With his girlfriend, he moved to Europe.
We sold pretty much everything we owned, and we went to Prague, and that changed my life also.
Talman visited St. Vitus Cathedral, a 700-year-old Gothic structure in Prague, and found himself repeatedly drawn to the cavernous space.
I found myself going back and just sitting there, but partly I was thinking about, what am I going to do with my work? How am I going to make this work? And I thought, what? I'm hearing something in here, but it's so faint, I'm not sure what it is. I went back day after day, and I'm like, that sounds like it's around 3 kilohertz. There's like a frequency up there, but it was really kind of off and on. It was really, really dim, but I could hear something there. I said, well, it should be in other places then. If it's here, let me go to other churches, big rooms, museums, wherever there's a big room that's quiet.
Talman crisscrossed Europe to visit the cathedrals in Cologne, Florence, Seville, and Cordoba. Hearing sound and looking at the spectrograms of the audio in these massive spaces gave him a hint as to what to do.
That was sort of the impetus for what became my work.
He came back to New York with new ideas about sound. He was given access to a church in Little Italy.
There was a kindly priest there, who gave me time in Old St. Patrick's Cathedral to make experiments. I went in and I recorded, and I came back and I looked at it on the computer, and there was a high frequency. And it was intermittent. It was what I had been hearing. Even then, I didn't know how I could use it completely. It was just a phenomena.
In 1999, he went back into an older recording he had done at Columbia University and searched for the silence in between the music.
I found 1.1 seconds of silence in there in the space. I analyzed it, and right away I could see some frequencies in it, and I made sure they weren't aligned with electricity. So I said, okay, I think I have something here.
Talman opened up this frequency to make it more resonant and bigger, but still an accurate version of the sound of the space.
And as soon as I heard the sound, I started crying. I mean, it was emotional because I thought, I can use this. This is beautiful. I thought, I've got the ticket. I can make harmonies out of these. I can control the bandwidth. I now have a musical sensibility of how to work with this.
Eventually, his first installation, Vanishing Point, where the sound of St. Paul's Chapel at Columbia University fed back into itself, went up in late 1999.
I had 8 speakers up in the dome, and I was using the floor system, which was many speakers, 14 speakers, and I had others in space, but really those 14 were feeding in a panning of the sound up to the dome. When I moved the sound like that, it was volcanic. It just seemed like this giant volume of sound moving up through space, a sound mass, really a giant sound mass. And then I would have the sound seem to fall back slower like this. And I did that over and over again, this upward and cascading.
After the success of his first installations, he went back to Europe in 2003.
So I went from city to city to city, going to cathedrals, going to synagogues, to temples, large spaces, museums, castles, and I recorded in all these spaces. I started to understand spaces really well, and I started to understand how to hear them when I walked into them.
His career as an ambient sound composer took hold. He created site-specific works that took the sound of a space and amplified it. Indoor installations followed in Chicago, Cambridge, Italy, Cologne, and elsewhere. These compositions found him acclaim, and in 2006 he was awarded a Guggenheim Fellowship. His life as a resident composer, writing music of and for spaces, began. But Talman was thinking even bigger. His interest moved from interior spaces to the sounds of nature. One of these was the 2005 piece, Breath Sky. In 2019, he worked with cosmologist Dr. Mark Whittle on the sound of creation, a primordial sound from 13.8 billion years ago, on a project called Of Sound Before the Stars.
There was so much force in that sound that it moved matter. Because there's so much matter and it's cooling, the force of the sound helped to coagulate the materials into the early stars and galaxies. So sound actually is at the beginning of the formation of the universe as we know it. And today, scientists can look at the cosmic background radiation and they can see imprints of those sound waves. And from those, they can model that sound.
The installation was presented at Mount Wilson Observatory in 2019.
I mean, we couldn't fit a single sound wave in the space. We couldn't even fit it on the planet, right? But through modeling, you can make it, and then you can reduce it by transposing it up so that we can actually hear our version of what it would sound like.
Another installation took place at St. Peter's Church in Manhattan in 2018. Under the Sun was a collaboration with astrophysicist Daniel Hoover that took helioseismic observations of the sun and were converted into human-level audio. Talman created an audio plan in the church and even installed speakers in the catwalk.
The sun and other stars have a lot of chaos going on, so they're roaring. They've got their own sounds, their own kind of atmosphere, and so they're very loud. And we can track those sounds through modeling the light itself. The light comes in and has the information we need to see what the sounds are like.
Back on Earth's surface, Talman continues to install audio in galleries, even next to the ocean, furthering his fascination with spatial audio first discovered in the massive cathedrals of Europe.
I'm fascinated by human contact with space. For me, it's like I walk into a great building and it's got a great lobby and I want to put sound in it. I have an extraordinarily lucky life that I've been able to do these things. You confront space, and you confront the places we live in, and they're from small to large. I have a gravitation to the large ones because I grew up that way. I guess maybe I'm seeking my roots in a sense by doing it. It's something primal.